Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, whatever time of the day it is for you. Welcome back. Today we're diving into phase two of our relationship questions. So we're a few weeks removed from the first time that we went around this, and I'm going to encourage you to stay focused this time on the same relationship, whether it's a single person or if it's like a group of people, whatever it is. I would just remain focused on the same dynamic so that you can deepen your understanding and sort of deepen the meaning of this work and continue to calibrate your intuitive senses, just make them a little sharper and then tune them in a little more deeply by comparing, where you were at with this relationship a few weeks ago to where it's at now, whether you've applied some of the insight and the guidance, you've taken some of the action or not, and seen how that kind of plays out. So it'll be interesting to see what this second time around looks like. So just like we've done with the other weeks, I'm going to encourage you to go through those same questions. So we'll go through them real quick. What do I need to know about this relationship for my highest good? How does this relationship serve my highest good or my soul's growth? You can ask that one. What can I do in this dynamic to honor my highest good? We can also ask this question again. What do I need to know? What can I do in this dynamic to honor the highest good of myself and of all involved? So I would encourage you to ask both of those questions. I think it's important to know or see if there's any difference between what you get if you just ask what you need to know for your highest good or what you can do in the dynamic for your highest good, and then if you ask within the context of what do I need to do to honor my highest good and the highest good of all involved. Check in, experiment with that, and see what comes up. The other question, my favorite one, what part of myself is being challenged to grow in this dynamic or in this relationship? What part of myself is being challenged to grow? Definitely check in with that one. If it was me, which for this process in myself, it has been for a long time, I would ask that juicy question all the time, because for me, I don't want to be living in an illusion. I don't want to be delusional about myself or this reality. There's a time and a space for that. That's where like creativity comes in, fantasy and being all silly. I don't want to be in a delusion about what is, whether it's about me or someone else or the world around me. So I would keep that one. I'd bookmark that question. What part of myself is being challenged to grow? That's where all the juicy stuff is. Keep that one in the bookmarks. Finally, how can I support the highest good of this person or these people that I'm in relationship to? Really awesome question to ask as well. It's giving you the power to show up in a particular way, or giving you information about how you can support the highest good and the soul growth of someone else. And that's a really beautiful gift, to give not only to yourself, but to whoever you're in relationship to. So those are those main questions. So go through those questions again and work through them. But just like the last couple weeks, I'm going to also ask you to now do some exploring and then some experimenting. Because essentially what we're doing when we get into this thing where we ask about different paths and just kind of intuitively peeking into each one, well, now we're kind of getting into, in a very practical way, working with that quantum dimension of reality. We're engaging with possibilities and potentialities, and we're kind of just sending our consciousness into that, into that slipstream, into that timeline, and checking in with it and saying, okay, well, what does this look like? What does this feel like? What's this experience? That's one bit of information. And then the second bit of information is, what is the soul growth? What is the lesson I get from having that experience? So there's two layers to that path A versus path B investigation. And I'm going to ask you to do it here, with this material, with relationships. If you feel called and if you feel comfortable, do the thought experiment. See what you get. So this could show up in a couple different ways, because again, there's decisions. Well, it always comes down to decisions. So there's a couple things. the thing that comes to mind, people ask very often, I'm in this space with my partner. Should we keep being together? Should this continue on? And when someone asks me that question, I'm always saying, I can't tell you what you shouldn't or shouldn't do, but let's look at what information wants to be revealed if you stay in this relationship. Now let's look at the information that wants to come through if you don't stay in this relationship. And then we'll ask, what is the spiritual lesson that I might learn staying in this relationship? What is the spiritual lesson I'm going to learn if this relationship is discontinued? It's layered bits of information, but those are things that we can look at. The other thing is when it comes to framing these questions, and then maybe this one in particular, we can really get as specific as we want in our questioning. What does it look like if we stay in this relationship but do X, Y, Z? What does it look like if we don't continue this relationship romantically, but we remain friends? What is this if we don't continue this relationship and we don't remain friends? Like, we can really look into all these different ways in which things can continue on. And we can get information. And we can get information from each one of these timelines and just look and see. And then compare. And then make a choice. That's how the process works. I will say, though, sometimes our guides will go dark. Sometimes information will not come through. And you might have already experienced this. And this, I feel like it's coming in here for a reason. You may have already experienced this. If not, it's possible that sometimes you might feel like the information is just not accessible. And sometimes that's the case. What I've learned about that sensation or that feeling is that sometimes there are things that we are going to have to just walk through and experience and learn from and grow from. And that has been something I've noticed in my experiences. Sometimes, there's stuff that we're not kind of led into, like we don't see it coming, but it almost like it serves a larger purpose of it's like a real catalyst for growth. And then we're meant to, in the moment, very, for lack of a better term, like to creatively respond, to make a choice or make a decision. So there's that side of it. And then also sometimes things are not quite as consequential as maybe we think. And so sometimes we really are being left with free reign. Sometimes we might be looking into these different things. I've had this happen to me before, and I've heard it doesn't matter. That could also be a thing. But I want to drop this in here is that sometimes because I think it's because I was saying, we can get as specific as we want. We can really like frame these situations as tightly and as specifically as we want, and just see if there's information that wants to come in around it for us. Sometimes we're not given certain bits of information. Sometimes we're given guidance. We are given the guidance, but sometimes we're also not given guidance, or we are being left to make the choice for ourselves because, again, we have free will. And so if we remember that at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong in terms of it's going to send us to heaven or hell or la la la. Sometimes we're being left to just choose and to be a free being, to live and breathe creatively in the moment. And our guidance is giving us the freedom to just choose. Well, I don't know. What do you want? What do you want? Well, this thing isn't necessarily super consequential. This is a blank canvas. Do what you want with it. Sometimes that happens, and so sometimes you may notice, you might check in with certain things, you just might not get information, and that's a thing. Pay attention to it. It might show up that it might show up in a meditation like that, where you do an inquiry and it feels like nobody's on the other end of the line. There's nobody on the other side of the phone. It's like a dial tone or a busy signal. When that happens, wait it out. Check in a little bit of time. You don't have to abandon that pathway completely, but just wait and see, because sometimes there's stuff unfolding. Now, in my experience, my guidance has been kind enough at times to nudge me and let me know that that's what's going on, so that I'm like, oh, okay, got it. And so now when I get when I get the busy signal or just the dial tone, when I do a check-in, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Nothing's there. So I'm just going to kind of wait it out, or, this is up to me to figure out or to decide. And, I'm being given the freedom to do that. That's absolutely a possibility. So be open to that and see how it shows up, if it shows up in your practice. Okay. So a little extra tangent there, but some other information that spontaneously wanted to be shared. So this week, work through the relationship stuff, revisit that relationship or that dynamic that you were working with a few weeks ago. Look at, what came through, how has that situation evolved, what guidance, played out, what stuff made sense, what did you maybe not act on, that you maybe go, oh yeah, that's what was going on. Calibrate, and then play with this path A, B, C thing. Look at what is the experience, and then look at what's the spiritual lesson if you walk that path. Compare and contrast, and then just apply that to your situation and see how that plays out. All right. So thank you for being here. As always, I appreciate your presence, and I appreciate your commitment to this work and this practice. And I'm really, really excited that we're inching towards the end here. We're going to do another week. We're going to do a practical look at the work stuff again, and then you're gonna be done for the most part. There's one last video after that, and it's just really a little wrap up. I'm gonna send you off talking about living from a place of love, but we're week 7 of the practical application portion of this. We spent a lot of weeks together, so at this point you should be developing your own practice and your own way of going about these things, and I'm just really, really excited about all the work that we've done together. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking an interest in this work, in yourself, and connecting to loving awareness and the divine creator. When you finish up with this relationship section this week, click into the next video. We're going to do another section on work, and I look forward to seeing you there. Adios.